Welcome to Tennis Playhouse. We're reporting live from an exciting women's tennis match. The atmosphere is incredible as top players battle for victory. Stay tuned for more updates and highlights from the world of tennis. The dream almost ended before it even began. Not under the bright lights of center court. Not during a dramatic five-set battle in front of millions of viewers. Not with cameras flashing or commentators shouting into microphones. It nearly ended on a quiet practice court at Wimbledon where almost nobody was paying attention. Just 48 hours before she was scheduled to make history as the first Filipino woman ever seeded at a Grand Slam tournament, Alexandra Eala stood on the grass courts of the All England club preparing for what should have been another ordinary training session. The atmosphere was calm. The weather in London was perfect. Coaches moved quietly around the courts. Players practiced their serves. Journalists waited nearby hoping to catch a glimpse of the rising Filipina sensation whose incredible grass court season had turned her into one of the biggest stories in tennis. Everything appeared normal. Then one swing changed everything. Alex stepped into a routine forehand during practice. The motion looked harmless. She planted her feet, rotated her shoulders, and drove through the ball the same way she had done thousands of times throughout her life. But suddenly she stopped. A sharp expression crossed her face. Her racket slipped slightly from her hand. Then came the silence. Alex immediately grabbed her shoulder, bending forward as pain shot through her arm. Coaches froze. Players on nearby courts stopped rallying. A few people rushed toward her while others simply stared, unable to process what they had just witnessed. For one terrifying moment, the hopes of an entire nation seemed to collapse alongside her. The shoulder. It was the same shoulder that had already worried fans throughout the grass court season. The same shoulder that had been heavily strapped during the Bad Homburg tournament. The same shoulder that seemed to trouble her during the later stages of her remarkable run at the Berlin Open. Now, only days before Wimbledon, it looked like it might finally give out completely. Thousands of Filipino fans who had traveled across the world to witness history watched the scene unfold in disbelief. Videos spread instantly across social media. Screenshots captured Alex clutching her arm while her team surrounded her with concern written all over their faces. The reactions were immediate. No, not now. Please let her be okay. She worked too hard for this. Not like this. Within minutes, fear spread through the tennis world. Had Alexandra Eala's historic Wimbledon dream ended before it had even started? The timing could not have been worse. June 2026 had already become the most important month of Alex Eala's career. She had entered the grass court season with confidence, but nobody expected what would happen next. It started in Birmingham. The 21-year-old from Quezon City captured the first grass court title of her professional career at the WTA 125 Lexus Birmingham Open. After dropping the opening set in the final against Nikola Bardonkova, Alex fought back with remarkable composure, winning 5-7, 6-3, 7-5. It wasn't just another title. It was proof that her game belonged on grass. For years, tennis experts questioned whether Alex's aggressive baseline style would translate successfully to Wimbledon's fast surface. Birmingham answered those doubts immediately. Her movement looked smoother. Her serve improved dramatically. Her left-handed angles became even more dangerous on grass. Suddenly, people started paying attention. Then came Berlin, and everything changed. The Berlin Open was supposed to be a difficult learning experience for Alex. Instead, it became the tournament that shocked the entire sport. She entered as a wild card. Nobody expected her to survive the early rounds. But Alex didn't care about expectations. In the round of 16, she defeated Donna Vekic after a grueling comeback battle. Then came the match that made the tennis world stop and stare. Elena Rybakina, former Wimbledon champion, one of the most feared grass court players on earth. Almost everyone predicted a comfortable victory for Rybakina. Instead, Alex delivered one of the biggest upsets of the season. Fearless, aggressive, unshaken. She defeated Rybakina 5-7, 6-4, 6-4 and announced herself as a genuine threat on grass. But she still wasn't finished. In the quarterfinals, Alex dismantled world number 8 Alina Svitolina in straight sets. back-to-back wins over two top 10 players. The tennis world exploded. Commentators struggled to find words. Analysts suddenly began discussing her as a possible future Grand Slam contender. Fans from the Philippines celebrated like the country had just won a world championship. And the rankings reflected it. Alex climbed from world number 35 to world number 30. Then another twist changed everything again. When world number 9 Victoria Mboko withdrew from Wimbledon because of injury, Alex moved up to the number 29 seed. History had officially been made. For the first time in the Open era, a Filipino woman would enter a Grand Slam tournament as a seeded player. The Philippines erupted with pride. News stations covered her non-stop. Social media flooded with support. People who had never watched tennis before suddenly learned scoring systems, player rankings, and Wimbledon traditions just to follow Alex's journey. An entire nation was preparing for the biggest moment in Philippine tennis history. But beneath the celebration, something else was quietly growing.
Pain.
The warning signs were there all along. During the later rounds in Berlin, fans noticed Alex occasionally shaking out her arm between points. Her shoulder appeared stiff during serves. The power behind certain forehands seemed inconsistent. Then came Bad Homburg. The heavy strapping around her shoulder became impossible to ignore. Every camera angle showed it. Every photograph highlighted it. Questions started spreading across social media. Was she injured? How serious was it? Could she still compete at Wimbledon? Alex tried to calm concerns publicly. "My athleticism is something I've been working on," she explained during one interview. "It's more precautionary than anything. I'm just trying to keep my body in shape." At the time, fans wanted to believe her, but the tape kept appearing. The schedule had been brutal. Birmingham,
Queen's Club.
Berlin, Bad Homburg, tournament after tournament with almost no recovery time. Alex kept pushing forward because she understood what was at stake. Wimbledon,
History.
legacy, the dreams of millions. And now, standing on that practice court clutching her shoulder, everything suddenly felt fragile. The silence from her camp made things even worse. Hours passed without any official update. Speculation exploded online. Some believed it was only muscle tightness. Others feared something far more serious. Tennis journalists scrambled for information while Filipino fans anxiously refreshed their phones waiting for any news at all. Then came the emotional wave. Messages poured in from around the world. "Stay strong, Alex. We believe in you. You've already made us proud. You are not alone." Prayer circles formed in the Philippines. Fans gathered outside sports bars and community centers talking about nothing except Alex's shoulder. For many Filipinos, this story had become bigger than tennis. Alex represented possibility. She represented resilience. She represented a country rarely mentioned on tennis's biggest stages, finally demanding recognition. Now, the thought of losing her before Wimbledon even began felt unbearable. Former players also started reacting. Some warned that shoulder injuries on grass can become dangerous quickly because of the serving motion required on faster courts. Others praised Alex for even attempting such a demanding schedule. But one thing became obvious. The entire tennis world cared. And that realization alone showed how far Alexandra Eala had come. Only a few years earlier, she was a teenager training quietly at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, fighting for opportunities while adapting to life far away from home. Back then, very few people outside junior tennis circles even recognized her name. Now, one practice court injury had become international news. That was the Alex Eala effect. The next morning, Wimbledon's practice courts were surrounded by even more reporters than usual. Everyone wanted answers. Would she withdraw? Would she practice again? Would history disappear before it ever reached center court? Finally, Alex appeared. Slowly, calmly, with tape still wrapped heavily around her shoulder. The sight immediately triggered another wave of concern. But something else stood out too. Her expression. She didn't look defeated. She didn't look broken. She looked determined. That detail mattered. Because throughout her career, Alex had already faced countless moments where people expected her to collapse under pressure. When she lost heartbreaking matches early in her professional journey, when she struggled against higher-ranked opponents, when critics questioned whether a player from the Philippines could truly compete with tennis powers from Europe and America. Every time, she answered the same way, by fighting harder. Practice resumed carefully. Her team monitored every movement closely. The serving intensity remained lower than usual. Forehands were shortened slightly, but she kept training. And that decision revealed something deeper about her character. Alex wasn't simply trying to survive Wimbledon. She was refusing to surrender to fear. That distinction changed everything. Because champions are not defined only by victories. They are defined by what they do when uncertainty arrives. And uncertainty was everywhere. During one quiet moment after practice, a reporter asked whether she was worried. Alex paused briefly before smiling. Of course there's pain, she admitted. But every player feels something this time of year. Wimbledon is special. You don't stop fighting, because things get difficult. That sentence spread across social media instantly. You don't stop fighting because things get difficult. Fans embraced it immediately. It sounded bigger than tennis. It sounded personal. It sounded like the reason millions of people connected so deeply with her journey in the first place. The following day, Wimbledon officially confirmed Alex would remain in the draw. No withdrawal. No retirement announcement. No surrender. The dream was still alive. And suddenly, the fear surrounding her injury transformed into something else entirely.
Belief.
Because now people understood the real story. This wasn't just about a shoulder. It was about resilience. It was about carrying pressure that would crush most athletes and still finding the courage to walk forward. The pressure on Alex entering Wimbledon was almost impossible to describe. She wasn't simply representing herself anymore. She carried an entire nation onto those courts. Millions of Filipinos saw their own struggles reflected in her journey. A young woman from a country with limited tennis infrastructure competing against athletes backed by generations of wealth, resources, and elite systems. And somehow beating them. That mattered. It inspired people, especially young athletes who suddenly believed impossible dreams might actually be reachable. Now, despite the injury scare, she still had one mission left. Step onto Wimbledon's grass. The opening round matchup only added more drama. Renata Zarazua, the same player who defeated Alex 2 years earlier in North Carolina after staging a dramatic comeback. That loss haunted Alex for years. At 19, she had been inexperienced and emotionally overwhelmed. Now she would face the same opponent as a Wimbledon seed with the entire tennis world watching. It felt almost scripted. Redemption waiting on center court. But the injury cloud remained. Every practice clip online triggered concern. Fans analyzed her shoulder movement frame by frame. Commentators debated whether her serve speed looked lower. Nobody truly knew how healthy she was. Only Alex and her team understood the real situation. And they stayed quiet. The night before her Wimbledon debut, London buzzed with anticipation. Filipino supporters flooded the streets around the All England club, wearing Philippine colors and waving flags. Some traveled over 20 hours just to witness history. Hotels around Wimbledon filled with fans from Manila, Quezon City, Cebu, and countless other places across the Philippines. Many called it the biggest moment Philippine tennis had ever seen.
Because it was.
Inside her hotel room, Alex reportedly spent the evening quietly with her team reviewing match footage and preparing mentally for the challenge ahead. No dramatic interviews. No distractions. Just focus. That calmness impressed many people around her. Despite everything, the pressure, the injury fears, the expectations, she remained grounded. And maybe that was the most dangerous thing about her. Because Alex Eala had learned how to turn pressure into fuel. The next morning arrived. Wimbledon.
History Day.
The crowds around the grounds were unlike anything many long-time tournament staff had ever seen for a first-round women's singles match. Filipino flags everywhere. Chants echoing through the pathways. Phones recording every moment. The Alex Eala phenomenon had officially arrived at Wimbledon. Then she walked onto the court. The applause exploded instantly. People watched carefully for signs of discomfort. Yes, the shoulder tape remained visible. Yes, there was still concern. But when Alex smiled toward the crowd, something shifted emotionally inside the stadium. Hope returned, because no matter what happened next, she had already refused to let fear defeat her. And that mattered. The warm-up began. Forehands, backhands, serves. Every movement analyzed by millions online. Then the match started. And something extraordinary happened. Alex looked free. Not cautious. Not terrified.
Free.
Her movement was sharp. Her timing returned. Her aggression remained fearless. The shoulder that almost ended everything suddenly looked manageable. The crowd sensed it immediately. Every winner triggered deafening reactions. Every hold of serve brought louder cheers. And with every point she won, the emotional story surrounding her grew even bigger. This wasn't merely about tennis anymore. This was survival, redemption, defiance. The girl who nearly lost everything on a practice court 48 hours earlier was now fighting brilliantly on one of the sport's greatest stages. By the end of the match, one thing became undeniable. Alex Eala's Wimbledon story was no longer just about becoming the first Filipino seed at a Grand Slam. It was about proving that courage matters most when things begin falling apart. Because anyone can dream during easy moments, but only special athletes keep believing when fear enters the room. And that was the lesson hidden inside those terrifying practice court moments. Alex's shoulder scare revealed the truth about her long before the headlines celebrated victories or rankings. It revealed who she really was. A fighter, a believer. Someone willing to walk directly into uncertainty, carrying the expectations of millions, and still refuse to back down. That is why fans connected with her story so deeply. Not because she was perfect, not because she never struggled, but because she kept moving forward anyway. And sometimes, that matters more than any trophy. The tennis world arrived at Wimbledon expecting a talented young player from the Philippines. What it discovered instead was something much more powerful. A competitor whose resilience inspired people far beyond sports. A young woman carrying an entire nation's hopes while battling physical pain and impossible expectations. And somehow still smiling through it all. That is what made Alexandra Eala's Wimbledon journey unforgettable before the tournament had barely even begun. The shoulder scare could have broken her confidence. It could have shattered momentum. It could have ended the dream. Instead, it became the moment that defined her character. Because history is not only created by victories. Sometimes history is created by surviving the moments that almost destroy you. And Alexandra Eala survived hers. The dream lived on. The nation kept believing. And Wimbledon was only just beginning.